Hi everybody, always into something. Today we're working on the exhaust gasket for Honda Pioneer 700. This is a four-seater. This is a 2024 model. We've got a few of these side-by-sides in our family, 2016, a 2018, and a 2024. And all of them have had this problem. We live in Florida and we're in and out of water, and what happens when we go, there's a gasket in here. Here's the header pipe that comes from the engine. This is the exhaust which goes into the muffler, and right here there is a graphite connection here, bushing that goes in there, and you clamp it down. But what happens is you go in and out of the water, these things get hot. This thing glows cherry red up by the engine, and as you go in and out of water, it expands and contracts, and the header pipe starts pulling out. You can see the gap that's here. This face should be flush with this basically, and then the gasket, it seals and you tighten it down and you're good. But this thing, I mean, it's not even attached. So my fix that I had done on my bike years ago was to build a little extension piece there, and then when in doing that extension, I also make a bracket that I support to the machine to keep that header pipe from pulling away. Because I guess it would just, I don't know at what point this would actually stop moving, but I built a bracket that stops it from moving. And it's just something that I've came up with. I'm a plumber, so I use parts and pieces that are available to me. And just really quick, so this is basically what we're doing. So this is an inch and a half. I honestly ordered this right off of old Amazon. So I've got a female portion here that'll go on the header pipe. This will extend into the muffler portion, and then here's our factory graphite or whatever material that is that seals that. And then obviously a muffler clamp. So we're going to use a muffler clamp on this, and it will go toward the header pipe. So basically I'm going to build a little extension. So I'm going to cut this pipe down to size, slide the larger end over that piece, muffler clamp, gasket. There's one bracket here, and there's just a bolt that goes through there. You got to take that off so the entire muffler can slide to the back of the machine. Gives us some room in here, but I need to take measurements and get all this prefab first before I disconnect that. So anyway, just want to give you a rundown. Like I say, this seems to be common on a lot of these, especially if you're in and out of water. I wish, knowing what I knew about the other bikes, we would have built that bracket from day one, and I just wonder if this would have ever pulled loose and he could still have a nice factory setting. These header pipes are only about, I say only, they're only about $165. I'd almost be tempted to buy a factory tailpipe or header pipe, and just get everything back to factory at some point, because what we spend is, these are a pain in the butt. But we bring gaskets with us, and it's, every year or two, we just got to replace them. They just wear out. But anyway, let me get some of this prefabbed, and I'll show you what we got when I start putting it together. Okay, so just a little update on what we've done here. So I measured the piece that I needed, and there was a little bit too much coupling on the larger end of this extension. So you can see, like I say, I'm a plumber. I've got tools to cut this with. You'd probably have to use a hacksaw or something if you didn't have tubing cutters. But I cut a little bit off. I measured my piece. So I've got the part that'll go over the header pipe. This will go into the exhaust pipe. And then when I cut it, it kind of burred up. So I had to take a round edge file and clean up the inside of that. And then, so inside of that, that's the gasket, and that'll go over that. So this is basically what we're looking at, is that little gap that's there. This piece is gonna go and fill that gap. So let me pop this muffler loose and start putting it together. Okay, so to start taking this apart, there are two. Let's see, what size is that? Those are two 12 millimeter bolts that hold this clamp on. So you need to kind of loosen those up. They'll have to be free, and maybe pry on it a little bit with a screwdriver to get it to open up when you install the new gasket. And then there is a bolt that runs through that bracket. This is what basically secures the muffler. Nothing else really holds it in place. It just slides in bushings. And then this is the hardware. So just kind of keep track of the hardware as it comes out. There's some rubber bushings, and some of those bushings will stay in place, and you can kind of pull. Let's see if I can get the whole thing out. So there's this kind of sets in there like so. There's another one of these on this side, and that's what holds that muffler in place. But it's free now. You only need to pull it back, a little bit, maybe like 4 or 5 inches. But I'll give you one little warning. Your CO2 sensor, or your O2 sensor, is up here, and you only have maybe about 4 inches of play in this. So you want to pull it back far enough to do what you need to do here, but not so far, as to damage that. Right above this, now this is a 4-seater. On my 2-seater, I can just get to the top of this plastic, and it's just a simple connection. This is underneath the seat, and it looks like it's a little harder to get to. So I'm just going to make sure I only pull back what I need and not mess with that O2 sensor line or jeopardize any of that. So let me pull this thing apart, and we'll go from there. All right, so I just wanted to give you a little view from the muffler end of things. So there's brackets that go into bushings, and that's all that kind of holds this in place, other than that bracket I showed you up front. And then back there's another one, just a rubber grommet it goes into for vibration, and it does pinch on the frame just a little bit. I kind of took a longer screwdriver and just pressed down on this heat shield just a little bit and was able to pull it out. I think I've got it more than enough. I didn't bind the CO2 wire or anything. And now you can see how much room I have. So what I gotta do now, is the old gasket is in here. So I'm gonna have to do this with 2 hands, but what I'm gonna do, you gotta kind of pry it out of here. It's not difficult, but you just gotta pry it out of here and then seat a new one. And you'll see there's long gaps in this piece right here. There's 4 of them, I think. That gap on the end, there's one there, maybe there's more, maybe there's like 5. But anyway, you really shouldn't have to bend those out, but I've had a little bit of a frustration with those before. But you just got to get that other gasket out, and you got to make sure that it gets all the way to the back, because see how there's a little bit of a hole there? There's one underneath here, and you'll see them all the way around. And that'll be a leak. So you've got to make sure, sorry again, you got to make sure that gasket, when you insert it into that, goes back beyond those holes, or you'll just keep getting a little leak. So let me peel this out, and then we'll install that gasket and start basically kind of putting this thing back together. All right. Sorry if I'm a little out of breath. I'm trying to knock this out because I'm on a time restraint right now. But so from the back side, everything's back in, but before I go underneath there, what I do back here is I just take a 2x4 and I place it around the muffler on the edges, and you gotta line these back up, and it can be a little bit of a chore. I just did it all by myself, a second person guiding the pipe up front while somebody taps on the back. So I do have a heavy hammer, but I'm tapping it. I mean, I'm not pounding it. You just want to move it an eighth of an inch, you know, and just guide it in there. And like I say, it kind of binds up on the frame just a little bit. They've got a cutaway there, so there's room now. But when this part hits that, it's a little pain. Like I said, I did just do it by myself, but second person makes it a whole lot easier. And then, sorry, this is what we have underneath. So there's that female end of that extension, and I've got an inch. None of this is tightened up, by the way. It's just snug. A muffler clamp, 1.5-inch muffler clamp, and then the factory clamp with the factory gasket, and then that male just goes into that gasket. And I did just fire it up, put my hand around it, you know, just for, it gets hot quick. So just fire it up. I just felt around everything. This is those little grooves that I was talking about. You just got to make sure that gasket gets back beyond that. And without getting too much into it, I've made myself a little tool over the years. And that gasket, this is an 1.5 inch, more plumbing parts. This is an 1.5 inch sink tailpiece. And I've just got a couple heavy rubber, not rubber bands, but whatever you want to call it, rubber gaskets, I guess. And I slide that factory gasket on this so that when I stick it in that hole, I can tap on this and make sure that it gets all the way to the back. And then I just pull it out. You could probably use a socket or whatever you could come up with. But if you don't shove it all the way to the back of that, you're just kind of spinning your wheels, because it's not gonna seal it. It'll blow right through every one of those holes, and you'll still get a little pop, pop, pop. It won't be so bad. It won't be loud. And then now I'm going to go on and I'm going to build a little bracket like I mentioned. And what it's going to do, I'll just show you a picture of it. But it's just going to keep this header pipe from wanting to keep moving forward any further. So let me get some more tools out and get that assembled. Again, that's really not a big deal, but it's just something I'm wanting to do that's a little extra, because I think it helped me on mine. And just real quick while I'm right here, just, you know, I do this stuff just for fun. I'm hoping that it maybe helps somebody. If it's a crazy idea and you think it's nuts, comment it. You think so. If not, like and subscribe. Like I say, I'm a YouTube guy. I've been repairing stuff forever. And when I come across little different things that I've done, I've tried to make videos to pay it back, you know. All that YouTube has helped me repair over the years, so I'm just trying to help other guys like me out there. So I do appreciate a like or subscribe or comment and tell me I'm crazy or hey, it worked. That's all good. It's all fun. So anyway, I just gotta put this gasket back in that we've still got down here. Oops, let me get my camera to work here. So I just got to install that gasket back in there, and then I'm going to make that bracket, and then we'll start it up. Okay, so we're all done. Everything's tightened up. That bracket's back on for this. That's what holds the muffler from going backwards. And then when tightening these, alternate, snug, 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 go back and forth, and it'll clamp down tighter that way. And you know, just kind of eyeball these. Maybe after a week or so, maybe riding, you just want to snug up on those. I'll probably snug up on everything. Again, this is my son's bike, so he can do it. But this is the bracket that I made, and like I say, it's just plumbing parts. That's a 1.5 inch standoff bracket for copper, so it's 1.5 inch copper tube size, and it just goes into a 3/8 all thread. I back it with a nut so it doesn't move, and then I came on down to a 3/8 beam clamp. Again, I backed it with a nut, and this was only like a 1/4 inch hole, so I drilled it out so that that 3/8 thread on that clamp would fit over it. I probably would like to have some Loctite or something on this top nut. I mean, it's cranked down. I'm going to tell them to keep an eye on it. But that's it. One-man job was a little hard. But like I say, time restricted us from doing much. Let's fire this thing up. Nice and quiet. Don't feel any air, no leaks, and should be ready to go. All right, so again, just want to appreciate everybody for watching. Hopefully this helps out some people. It's just a crazy way of kind of coming across stuff, and it's worked for me, and maybe it'll work for him, maybe it'll work for you. But appreciate y'all watching, and look back, because we're always into something.